I'm Jim Rounder, and I'm an alcoholic. My sobriety date's the 25th of May, 2005. And I'm a member of the Came to Believe group in Rocky Mount, and I've been there for many, many years. But I've also been in these rooms before that. And there's a lot of people here who I know who know that I was a bad alcoholic because I could never stay sober. So it was nice of you to invite me here tonight to speak about Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm originally from Arkansas. Don't hold that against me. But I grew up in southern Arkansas, and I was born in 1946. My father had come back from World War II. He was a pilot, and married my mother. And I was born about 2 years after they got married. Growing up in southern Arkansas was very good. It's mostly rural area down there, and lots of cotton and things like that. So anyway, I didn't have any trouble with school. I seemed to do well in grade school and high school, and but what happened to me when I was about 5 years old, my father had gone out goose hunting with some of his friends. He was out of town. And I started having severe pain in my lower abdomen, and my mother called the doctor. Back then, the doctor would come to your house. So here I got my family doctor driving up, and he looks at me and examines me, and he says, "You need to have your appendix removed." And I'm going, "What's that?" So anyway, so my mother picked me up, put me in the car, and took me to the hospital. And I had my appendix removed. Back then, they usually kept you in the hospital 3 or 4 days. You didn't get out of the hospital the same day you go in like it is today. And the day after surgery, my doctor came in and looked at me, and I said, "I want you to show me where the operating room is. I want to be a doctor." And he said, "Okay." So he took me by the hand, walked me downstairs, took me to the operating room. And I was so impressed with that. I said, "Wow, I want to be a doctor when I grow up." And ever since then, my goal was to become an MD. I did fine in grade school and high school, and I went to a Methodist college in central Arkansas and had no problems there. I got my degree. This was in the early 70s, 1970s, and the war was on. And all of a sudden, everybody decided, "I want to be a doctor because I can get deferred." So the list for people wanting to go to medical school was just way up. And I'm going, wait a minute. Anyway, I was on a list, and they took 8 of the people on the list, and I was number 9. So I didn't get in. I was upset. I said, well, I'm going to go to graduate school. So I went to the University of Arkansas and started a master's degree. And I kept applying every year, but I couldn't get in. And finally, I decided I was going to I might as well join the military, and they're going to come and get me. And sure enough, after a year in graduate school, there's my number, you line up, you show up. So I was drafted into the Army. And I said, well, I tell you what, I was there for like 2 years or something like that. I said, well, I'll give you 2 or 3 or 4 if you let me do something in medicine, because I really want to be a doctor. So they extended me, and I got into the service, and I got sent. I sent to San Antonio, Texas. I don't know whether y'all have been to, there's a huge medical center there, military medical center. And I got into the program as just an orderly. Anyway, worked my way up and wound up working in urology. And I got in touch with the doctors there and the military. They were all military doctors, but I really liked what they did. And I said, that's what I want. I want to be a urologist. So I got finished with my time in the service, and I went back and applied again for medical school. And the guy looked at me when he was going through this. He says, "We never took you?" And I said, "No." He says, "You should have been picked up a long time ago." So I got right into medical school, and I'm going to leave that where it is right now, because I need to talk to you about how I met my wife. While I was in the military as an enlisted man, I couldn't stand being out of school. I wanted to take a course or something. So there was a college in San Antonio, and I signed up to take a course in microbiology or something. And I walk into this room, and I got a blue book, and everybody's got red books. And I look around, and there's a lady sitting there, and she's got a red book too. And I'm going, wait a minute. And the guy says, "You two go down the hall. You're in the wrong place." So I didn't know her. She didn't know me. She was in nursing school. And we got down there, and they said, "Well, you two are going to be partners because everybody else has got something." And that's how I met my wife-to-be. And we had fun as we could as far as she finished nursing school, and we were thinking about getting married. I said, "Well, you finished doing you got one more year to finish up, and I'll go back and I'm going back to school in Arkansas." But, she said, and I said, no. I said, "I promise I'll be back in a year and we'll get married." And that's exactly what happened. I came back and we got married in San Antonio, and we moved back to Little Rock, Arkansas, where I had applied for again to get into medical school, and I did, thank goodness. And so she got a job working for the state for a while, and I went to medical school, and she even had a job at the hospital. So being a nurse, she did some work with the Department of Anesthesia, did some studies for them. So we were all having a wonderful time, and I was, just enjoying our relationship and the fact that I was in medical school and I was going to graduate. And I had no problem in medical school. It's 4 years. And I said, I think I want to go back to San Antonio. I want to go back and be in the service again. So, because I'd met a lot of doctors while I was working under them so I got accepted back into the military, and went down there and did the training that they had. When I was just working for them, I was now becoming a urologist, and that all worked out well, and we had a good time. We had been married, I think, 3 years, and we had our child. Our daughter Jamie was born, and that was just a wonderful thing. I finished out my training, but I still owed the Army some time, so I wound up in Augusta, Georgia, and I finished out my time in a military hospital there, which was 5 years, and decided to get out of the military. I was able to get out at that time. I said I'd had enough of the Army, and we started looking for a place to live. What happened was we found a place in Louisiana, and we went down and checked it out, and it was okay. We went down there for 2 years, but it just wasn't what I was looking for. My wife wasn't happy, my daughter wasn't happy, and one of the guys that from Wilson called. He had heard about me, and he says, "We need you to come to Wilson. You could be the urologist here, because all our guys are old and they're retiring." And that seemed to work out well for my family. And so in 1990, we pulled up in Wilson and got set up, and I became a urologist for this city of Wilson. And for a while I was by myself, and eventually I got some help. But everything took off from there as far as work was concerned. The thing I haven't talked about that I want to start talking about now is my alcoholism. That's why I'm here tonight. After we got married, we drank a little bit. I think I drank a lot more than she did, but and she'll tell me, you really started drinking a lot. And I said, no, I wasn't drinking a lot. And she said, yes, you were. So as time went on, I could tell I was really drinking a lot. And I said, I better go to AA. So I started checking around in Wilson, found out there was an AA program. And we met at the Methodist Church here in town for a long time. And that's where I met my man here, where I met Paige. And he took me under his wing, and he worked with me. And the problem is I couldn't stay sober. He kept working with me, and I couldn't do it. And by mid 2021, I was drinking a lot, and I decided I needed to go to a treatment center. It became obvious that I couldn't continue to practice medicine and do what I was doing, because everything I wanted in this world was to be a doctor and take care of people, take care of my family. But alcohol had gotten in my way. And my wife was trying to help me. And she would tell me, you're drinking twice as much as you used to. One thing that set it off is my daughter was able to she wanted to go to school somewhere other than in Wilson. We had some friends up north that said, why don't you come up here? And my wife and my daughter went up there for her to finish high school. And boy, was that a time at home for me, because I'm by myself, if you can imagine. I was drinking all over the place. So it was a mess, and my wife knew it was a problem, and she said, you've got to do something. And in the early, around 2000, I said, I got to go somewhere to do something. So I went to a program here in North Carolina, and for 20 days, stayed sober about 6 weeks. I was terrible. I couldn't quit drinking. And I finally was able to, I had to go back to another treatment center. And I went to the one out in California and stayed there 3 months. And I thought I had it straight, and they let me go and come home. Yeah, that lasted about 6 months, and I was drinking again. And so Paige is going, what are you doing? You can't keep doing this. So I went for the one more time, and I wound up in Augusta, Georgia, or in Atlanta, excuse me, at a center there. And I had the day I drove from Wilson all the way up there, and I knew that day I didn't want to drink anymore. I wanted to stop. I really did. And I pulled into into Atlanta and got stayed a night in a hotel. And that day I'd had a few drinks on the way up there. The next morning, I got up, drove over to the treatment center, and I haven't had a desire to have a drink since then. That was over 20 years ago. So I got into that program, and Lord, they kept me for 3 months or so. They weren't going to let me leave. They'd call Paige on the phone and say, we don't know about this guy. You sure you want to take him back? And, I'm going, wait a minute, I'm all right, I'll be okay. And he was going to make sure I was doing well. So I really didn't want to drink anything again. I came home and went back to practicing medicine, and how I could keep my job, I don't know, but I was the only guy around for a long time. And finally, we got another urologist. But the hospital had to have someone come in. It's a wonder they even took me back, but they did. And I started meeting. We used to meet at the Methodist Church here in Wilson and have meetings over there. And Paige would, give me assignments to do and this and that, and checked on me and made sure I wasn't drinking. And I really felt good about myself. And things got better. My wife was happy to see me not drinking. And ever since then, I have been going to AA. Now, the group here, it moved to Rocky Mount. And I couldn't decide whether to stay here or whatever. Anyway, I wound up going to Rocky Mount and going with that group. But there's nothing wrong with the groups here. I know a lot of people here because I've been in meetings with you and all that. So it was really really nice to be able to come back to Wilson, see people. They could see me that I wasn't drinking, that I was doing my best to stay sober and help other people. And during this time, I had some medical problems and wound up in the hospital. My wife had to have some surgery. But we have been able to survive and do well ever since I finally got sober. And I've tried to do everything I can to help others who have problems with alcoholism. I have been able to get a partner. I got a partner to help me as a urologist. And there's a lady here in the office that used to work for me. And she's sitting over there. And we all got along well, and everything worked out. And I worked for about 30, 40 years. Then it became clear to me that it was time for me to retire. And so what I have done is continue to do a lot of things in AA, but I'm glad that I have retired, and I don't drink anymore, and life is so much better for me. I try to make AA meetings as much as I can. I've been to this meeting several times, and AA is just what I need. It was what I needed a long time ago, but I didn't know it. But it took people like you sitting in front of me here that made it clear to me that I had a problem with alcoholism, and I needed to do something about it. So now I live a day at a time. I read the big book. I go to meetings. I try to help other people. That's something that gives me something to look forward to. And I'm always willing to help others. There are a few people in town around here that I see that I've recommended that they probably should go to AA. Some of them go and some of them don't. People are just like that, you know. It's just, you can't make someone do something. You can be an example and try to make them see what had happened. And that's what I try to do. So I'm retired now, and I spend more time with AA, and we take meetings to some of the treatment centers around in Rocky Mount, and I've done that before. And to go to some of these places and try to talk to these men that are in prison and help them and find a way for them to realize they cannot, you know, if they have an alcohol problem, that they need to stop it. And we've had a fair amount of success with that. But overall, that's my story. I work it a day at a time. I read the big book every day. I do all those things because that's, in my mind, that's what I need to do. And that's my story. Anyone have any questions?